adjust to the shade, he stops and surveys the crowd laying here. People who have no way to make a living, who are more or less cast off from society. Some of them are cared for by friends or family. Some of them are homeless on their own. Some are more able than others. But they are all suffering not only from their debilitating ailments, but also from their rejection by society. These people are prohibited from worshiping in the temple. And yet no priests or Pharisees are there during this holy day encouraging them or teaching them. They're not given opportunities to contribute to society. In fact, a large part of society thinks that they deserve this fate. They must have done something to deserve this. God is displeased with them, the people think, and his disapproval is evident in their suffering. If God doesn't have pity on them, why should I? But as Jesus stops and looks at them, it is clear that this is not his attitude. An expression of pain crosses his face momentarily. He is feeling what they are feeling. Their suffering clearly brings him pain the way a father suffers when his child is sick or has been hurt. After looking at them for a minute, Jesus seems unable to relieve their suffering, at least for now. He begins to walk on. Partway, though, down the porch, as he is about to step by, Jesus stops, and he looks back at a man no one else is paying any attention to. He turns and looks down, taking a breath as he surveys the man's condition. It's this hopeless man. There's something clearly different about him. Even you or I would notice the man's suffering is greater. It has taken its toll on him. He seems as though he has been in this condition for a very long time. And as Jesus looks down, his heart aching, the Holy Spirit communicates to him the facts of the man's situation. John tells us that Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been there a long time. The man has been unable to walk for 38 years. He's lived his life probably as a beggar for most of this time. At this point in his life now, he has no one, no family, no friends. He is alone. And whatever the cause of his current disability, he has probably asked a lot of questions along the way. Why did this happen, God? Why are you angry at me? Isn't anyone going to help me? He's undoubtedly had regrets as well. Regrets that this is what his life has come to. That the pain and brokenness, after 38 years, has never been solved. And there are these questions and regrets in our lives too. We also live with pain. We live with failure, with disappointment. And maybe you've come here today facing some of that. Maybe right now you have come trapped in sin. Maybe you have tried and tried to escape, but it just feels like you're caught, like you're pulled back down again and again. And meanwhile, the shame just becomes overwhelming in your life. The effects of those poor choices have hurt you, and they've hurt those around you, and you just want to be free. Or maybe you've come here today suffering because of something that someone else has done to you. The scar seems to keep reopening, bringing fresh pain into your life. You wish that it could just go away, that you could put it away and not have it follow after you everywhere you go and in everything that you do. Maybe you've come here today suffering from depression. Life doesn't have joy anymore. You find that you're tired all the time. A lot of time you just want to stay in bed. It might even feel like you can't remember what life is like without this depression. Maybe you're here today burdened with regret about life, feeling like you were supposed to find happiness somewhere along the way, but everything has just been against you. Relationships didn't work out. You suffered financially, and it seemed like everyone else around you was prospering. Maybe your family fell apart, or you lost jobs, and you keep trying to fix problems, but new ones just keep coming up even faster. Maybe you're sitting here silently suffering with a chronic illness. You've been to plenty of doctors, but they just seem to add extra complications and financial burdens without really fixing much in your life. There are all kinds of problems and pain that is represented here among us this morning, many more than I can list. But you know what pain, what problems you have in your life. and in your addiction to sin, in your trauma, in your illness, in your depression, in your failure, your hope has dwindled, maybe just a little bit. Maybe you feel like you lost your hope now years ago, and it's only bitterness that is left. These problems have hurt us. We wish that they would go away, but they haven't. We regret that this is where we are. Sometimes we can't understand why and how life has happened to us like this. And so now we sit in our pain, just trying to get a little shade from the heat of the sun. Our hopelessness anchors us in place. And like this man, we have found that we cannot simply stand up and walk away from our problems. In verse 6 of John 5, it says, when Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been there a long time, he said to him, do you want to be healed? Huh? The man is surprised at being addressed by someone who's standing there looking down at him. He looks up, he sees Jesus standing there over him. Jesus' face looking down at him does not suggest superiority, but an invitation. Do you want to be healed? In verse 7 it says that the sick man answered him, Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I am going, another steps down before me. Now we understand why all of these people are lying here under these porches. The pool is not just a place for them to bathe. It's not just a cooling relief from the heat of the Palestinian sun. This pool is magical. They've heard it. It can heal you. Well, you should come down to the pool of Bethesda. I had a friend whose brother knew a man who saw someone healed there. All of these people are waiting here for this pool to heal them. The popular belief in Palestine, clung to especially by the people who needed hope the most, was that from time to time, an angel would come down and stir up the waters. The first person into the pool, when that happened, would be healed. In fact, of course, there was nothing about this pool that healed anyone. But for those who really want to believe, a lack of evidence is not too great of a problem. Probably the water was mysteriously stirred up from time to time. Archaeologists have excavated this pool in Jerusalem, north of the temple. It's in the shape of an uneven rectangle having 4 colonnades, one on each side, plus that 5th one John mentions that crosses the middle, dividing the pool into an upper and a lower pool. Interestingly, the depth of the upper pool, in the depths of the upper pool, it was fed by an